Oh, that's a good question to ask me. I always often say that our net worth is often a reflection of our self-worth. So I would visualize yourself in that place of joy, visualize yourself in a place of freedom, visualize yourself waking up every day excited to get to your desk so that you can get that work out into the world in whatever form your work comes. You're doing a beautiful job. This is one of the more prepared, beautiful interviews I've had. I just want to reflect that back to you.
Hi, it's Robin Sharma, and you're tuning into the Millionaire Student Show with Sashin.
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 Hey everyone, welcome to another episode on the Millionaire Student Show, where I get the opportunity to pick the minds of this generation's thought leaders, change makers, disruptors, innovators, and inspirations. Dissect their story from the pain they went through, the price they paid, and what their prize looks like today. I formulated the Millionaire Student Self-Development System and company because this is what I was searching for when I first entered the entrepreneurial world at 17 years old. My mission and purpose is to serve you with virtual mentorship to consciously make your clock tick without taking the thunder away from today's guest. She is a #1 New York Times best-selling author. To date, she has written 10 books. Here's a few of them. May Cause Miracles, More Into Your Life, The Universe Has Your Back, Spirit Junkie, Judgment Detox, and Super Attractor. YouTube chose her as one of the 16 YouTube Next Video bloggers, and she was named one of Mashable's 11 must-follow Twitter accounts. Oprah named her to the Super Soul 100. Self-Made magazine ranked her as one of the top 50 women in business, and Dr. Oz has had her as an expert on his massively popular show. She's also an international sought-after speaker who has spoken at Google, TEDx Women, L'Oreal, and many more. This change maker has even co-hosted a Guinness World Record setting group meditation with Deepak Chopra. She is not just an author, speaker, and social inspiration. She is an entrepreneur who has founded social networking site herfuture.com for women to inspire, empower, and connect. The Millionaire Students, please help me in welcoming today's guest on the show. Forbes listed her as one of the top 20 best branded women alive, Gabrielle Bernstein. Gabby, thank you so much for physically, emotionally, spiritually, and virtually being on the Millionaire Student Show today. So I truly appreciate your time.
I appreciate you, my friend. You are a lovely person to connect to virtually. And now it's nice to finally see your face in real time. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. So in this episode, I'm going to dissect the pain, the price and the prize of your life. And I know you've conquered life mentally and spiritually, being clean with no depression and no addiction for the past 15 years. From one soul to another, congratulations on that. I mean, that's a major milestone. You've totally unlocked this, and you've owned your mind. I've been following your journey, paying attention to your teachings, and watching your transformation. In fact, my mom and sister is a huge follower of your work. But for those who don't know you, like I've come to actually know you and understand your story with your content. Where did it all begin? What was that pain that you actually went through in life?
First of all, I'm glad that you start there, and I appreciate you congratulating me for my recovery, because while in life we may have a lot of opportunities to create outside credentials or accomplishments, I have grown to believe that my greatest accomplishment is my bravery to get to the place where I am as healthy and well and happy as I could possibly be. And I have had obstacles, as we all do, that's real. And really, my journey of being a spiritual teacher did come out of one of the big obstacles in my life, which was drug addiction and alcoholism, which I suffered from when I was in my early 20s. And I got sober when I was 25. In my sober recovery, I began to find and reconnect to a spiritual foundation. When I say reconnect, my spiritual roots began as a child. My mom taught me how to meditate. I was always given the opportunity to see her transform as she'd walk in and out of a room. She'd be in a stressed out state, go meditate, come back and be different. And so I had that imprint. By the time I was 25 and I got sober, I was really excited to reconnect to that spiritual foundation. And ultimately, it is that spiritual connection that saved my life and gave me life and gave me my purpose, which is to help other people wake up to that spiritual connection within them. And I've been in a very devoted path for over 15 years, as you mentioned, of really unlearning the fear stories that we all get brought up to believe in, different stories of fear and pretenses that we build up around our lives. And in the last 15 years, I've really done a lot of work to undo those belief systems. And in doing so, I've come to a place where I'm feeling a lot of freedom, and I'm proud to have been able to write 8 books on the topic of this and continue. I'm writing my 9th book right now, which is kind of crazy. And when you live your practices, you have a lot of content.
Definitely.
So here we are.
How did you find yourself going through that mental health process with depression, addiction, and that state that questions your existence? I want to get to that point in your life, and if you don't mind me mentally taking you back there, because I know there's a lot of people who are actually in that state right now, or maybe they've went through that process, or even going through it right now. But was it a buildup, or did you try to ignore it, or did you feel lonely, alone, and lost, and that you fell back on addiction?
It wasn't one moment. I think that have been a series of moments. And as when we get sober, we take away the drug or the drink or whatever our drug of choice may be. And that is a form of abstinence. But then the real journey begins of, well, what else is there? Why was I running? Why was I an addict? What was it that I was running from? And it was only, it was about 10 years into my sobriety, 11 years into my sobriety, when I was in an experience where I remembered a trauma from my childhood, which ultimately became the clear understanding in that moment of, oh, wow, that's why I became a drug addict. That's why I had been running. That's why I have been, a workaholic, and all the other ways that I was running from fear. And so really understanding the reasons that we run is one of the big ways that we can begin to get on a journey of recovery. And then, I really suffered recently in the last a year ago with, I had postpartum depression and anxiety. And so I want to be able to speak to anyone who is suffering with depression or anxiety and in the severest form, and just let you know that I understand completely where that can take you. The suicidal thoughts, the insomnia, the panic attacks, the agoraphobia, all the things that go with those diagnoses, because I had them only a year ago. And I'm so grateful for that diagnosis, because it has given me as a teacher and as a human being a heightened level of awareness of mental illness, because you can't really understand mental illness unless you go through it. But I wouldn't wish that upon anyone. But those of us who recover and get to the other side with the help of therapy, and in my case, I had to have medication to help me get through, and a tremendous amount of therapy. With the coming to the other side of that is a miracle. And to be able to sit here today and be able to honor anyone who's suffering with mental illness and say, I get it, I understand, I've been there, and I have a lot of tools to find your way out. That's a blessing for me.
Incredible. Some people have to go through it to come out of it, to teach from it. And that's what you're actually doing. People watching or listening to this right now, I want them to know that even the motivators need motivation in life. And, through your darkest point in life, what was your motivation? What kept you going? What was that light at the end of the tunnel?
I've always been in the pursuit of freedom, feeling free. And so while I've had freedom in my life from the literal standpoint, right? I'm a white woman living in America, right? I've been quite free. You can still have a lot of quote unquote freedom, but still live in the bondage of yourself. And so my pursuit has always been to live with a sense of freedom and safety. And I'm proud to say that I am there in a way that I've never been before. And that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm actually writing a whole book about that right now.
The darkest point of the day is definitely before sunrise. And when your preparation meets the higher power's timing, it's just a game over, match set from that moment. How has faith helped you in your darkest point, in your moments? Why is it so vital to have faith, in your opinion?
Without faith, I mean, I might not have made it. Like I've been in moments of where I could have gone in two directions. I could have gone in a direction of destruction, or I could have gone in the direction that I did choose. But it has been my spiritual faith that not only has led me and guided me, but also kept me feeling a sense of worthiness and a sense of safety, even when I didn't have any reason to believe that or feel that. So thankfully I had developed, 15 years of devotional faith when I was suffering from the postpartum depression, because in that moment, without my faith, I don't know where I would be right now.
So where do you start? Someone right now is looking for the process of healing. What would your process be?
You have to first be willing to heal. You can't heal unless you're willing to heal. So you have to look at your life and be able to look at things and say, is there a better way? Could there be a better way? And when we open up to the potential and the possibility that there has to be a better way, that there can be a better way, then we really begin to open up our consciousness. That's a prayer. Just simply saying there has to be a better way. That's a prayer. And it opens up our consciousness to receive inner guidance, inner wisdom, inspiration, intuition. It helps us, leads us to an interview like this. It leads us to the book that's going to change our lives. It leads us one step at a time in the direction that we need to develop a better sense of self and a better sense of safety and security. And so the key to beginning a journey of personal growth and development begins with your willingness and your desire to heal. And then it's a humble willingness that must be surrendered to regularly, daily. And with that willingness, you also have to have an openness to receive guidance, because you may say, okay, I'm willing to change. But then when the guidance is presented to you, you may be like, hell no, I'm not going to go to rehab, or hell no, I'm not going to, break up with that boyfriend that's not good for me. Like you may just still hold on and resist. So it's our work to not only be willing to change, but then have the bravery to make that change and to say yes to that change in whatever form it's coming,
Firstly, I totally agree with that. From an acceptance point of view, people aren't accepting, they're resisting it. They're mentally telling themselves they want change, but they're not physically willing to go out and do it, as well as accept the fact that they need change. Most people go through trauma, it turns into an addiction instead of improving themselves. How does one deal with or heal themselves from that trauma?
Well, one of the greatest trauma experts is a man called Gabby Bernstein, and he says that everyone who's addicted has experienced trauma. Every addict has experienced trauma. I would really echo that. I can say full stop. I agree. And so when you have the ability to get clean and sober or become abstinent from whatever your drug of choice may be, whether it's sex or work or whatever, that's step one. You've removed the addictive pattern, but the next phase of your recovery really has to begin to be brave enough to face the reasons that you became addicted in the first place, AKA the trauma. That happens through EMDR therapy, that can happen through emotional freedom technique, that can happen through talk therapy, that can happen through the guidance of a psychiatrist if that is needed, obviously rehab, 12-step programs. Even the 12 steps alone have the ability to help somebody really undo a tremendous amount of the traumatic effects that have happened in their lives. And that's free. That's just straight up free. That's available to anyone who identifies as an addict.
We as humans, I believe we need to love ourselves more before we can expect others to love us, as well as before we love each other. We also need to, and we need to accept the fact that when it comes to appreciation, celebration, exact same thing. We need to accept ourselves, celebrate ourselves before we look on social media. And especially with the whole digital world right now, we have access to almost everything on a simple screen. And we start to compare, and when we start to compare, it leads to expectations. Expectations lead to disappointment. Why is self-worth so important?
Well, it's hard to navigate this space that we're in right now without having some level of self-worth, because we're in a world that is based on comparison and separation and self-judgment and attack. I wrote an entire book called Judgment Detox. And it really unpacks this issue of the reasons that we judge. We judge because we believe we are unworthy, so we want to project out what we don't want to feel within. And being in that place of judgment is such a dark energy that really keeps us stuck. And so recognizing that the key to unlocking our self-worth is to have the once again, here's the word bravery, to look at the places within us that are the shadows within us that we have been projecting onto others. And so it's tough work, but what worthiness comes also with authenticity. When we start to accept that we don't have to be anyone other than the greatness of who we are in this moment, good, bad, and ugly. And we can just say, this is who I am. This is everything I've been through. And I'm proud of that. That's when we start to really gain a level of worthiness that we otherwise may not have established.
So why do you think people feel so unworthy? Is it because of us being able to view other people's lives and play the comparing game? Or do you feel that, it's just us being able to say, hey, I'm born in the wrong family, or I don't have the right foundation, I don't have the right backing up? Where do you think it comes from?
It's all of it. It's from our programming. It's from our childhood. It's from the belief systems that we have been brought up to know. I'm a mother of an 18-month-old baby, and I'm a conscious parent, and I'm doing the best I can, right? But one of the best things that I am doing is educating myself on how to create resilience and how to allow my son to feel worthy and feel connected and feel loved, and to honor most importantly, his emotions, honor his feelings. I may not do everything right, but if I can get this right, I know I will create a child who believes that he is worthy. Because many of us did not have our feelings and emotions respected and honored. But when we make that a high priority in any relationship, particularly with our children, then miraculous things can occur. People can be very, very resilient and live with a sense of worthiness.
So when you look at the word fear, it could either allow us to face everything and rise, or create a perception in our mind with false evidence appearing real. Sadly, when fear is created, the majority of human beings panic, and then they hesitate and contemplate, and we run in different directions. What's the difference between fear and your inner voice control?
It's a great question. I get this question all the time in different forms. So the difference between fear and the voice of your inner wisdom, your inner guidance system, spirit, God, whatever you call it. The difference often comes in the form of fear is a controlling voice. Fear is has an energy of if it's not painful, there is no purpose. Fear has a resonance of resistance. Fear creates conflict. When you're listening to the voice of your inner wisdom, it feels like a sense of knowing, regardless of whether it makes sense logically or not. It feels as though it's an intuitive sense. It's a empowering voice. It's even if it's even if it's an inner voice that's saying, "Warning, that's not a good idea," it still feels empowering and not terrifying. And it's a voice of guidance rather than a voice of control.
So, I mean, I know you wrote a book, The Universe Has Your Back. Love it. The awareness today versus 2, 3, 4 decades ago with regards to spirituality and the universal law has totally evolved. But personally, for me, I've had such a tight bond with the universe since I've been 8 years old. And that's why I'm so excited for your son, because there's no better time to learn when you've been down that path and you can teach him from past experiences. So there's two questions to this. How did you develop your relationship with the universe? And how do those who don't have that experienced transformation with the universe start today? I
think that when we accept that our obstacles can be detours in the right direction. My sobriety was a big obstacle. Being an addict became the direction for my life, right? My recovery being in the pursuit of helping others recover. When we have that level of acceptance that the difficult experiences in our life have a lot to teach us and have a lot of direction to guide us, that's when we start to open up a relationship with the universe, because then we are no longer the victim of the world we see, but we become open to creative possibilities. When we begin practices of prayer, practices of meditation, practices of stillness, we start to establish what I would refer to as a relationship with the universe. We start to connect to a sense of intuition, which you could call inner wisdom or inner guidance system, aka a connection to the universe. And when you start to develop that relationship, it really is a relationship. When you start to develop that relationship, you become more and more comfortable relying on that connection. If you're out there and you're wanting to transform your fear into faith and you're wanting to deepen your relationship with the universe, this is not a plug, but I would just say read The Universe Has Your Back. That entire book is about transforming your fear into faith so that you can have a stronger connection to a spiritual relationship of your own understanding. And I would highly recommend that book to anybody that's looking for that connection.
I know you're huge into visualization, and I love seeing things before I can physically feel it, and also speaking it into existence. What are some of your personal visualization techniques that you personally apply on a daily basis?
There's one that I'm doing now that's new, and my visualization meditations actually come to me. So when I lead in a visualization meditation, it's something that's actually been given to me. So the other day I was feeling like a lot of frantic energy that I know people all over the world are feeling right now. Like you can't be alive without it. And I was feeling like there was this electric field of energy just bursting through me, and I needed to do something about it. It was very uncomfortable. And so I laid down in my meditation. I actually laid on my back. I wasn't seated. I laid on my back. I had my palms facing upward, and I was just breathing and connecting. And then all of a sudden I started to feel as though there was this cord, like a extension cord going from my toes all the way to the top of my head. And then you know how there's the feminine and masculine sides of the cord, so they would meet together. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but I just want to give the visual of the cords coming and connecting. So it's almost like there was another cord from the top of my head. And so I had to plug them in, right? And I plugged them in, and I visualized that this cord was pulling all that energy out of the lower cord and releasing it and clearing it and recycling it. Now, this is a wacky visualization, but man, it worked. It really, really worked. So I visualized this energy just being pulled out and sent beyond me. And, immediately following that, I went and I did a live on my Instagram, and I just shared the meditation, and people were like, oh, that really helped me. And, that's how a visualization meditation would come to me.
Hey, I want you to take a quick split second of your time. All I want you to do is hit the subscribe button and turn on your notifications. I want to update you when I have a next iconic guest on my show. Stay in student mode.
Hi, I'm Gabby Bernstein, and you're tuning in to the Millionaire Student Show with Sashin.
You've personally experienced it, but when you teach it to people, people just feel like I got to close my eyes and then imagine something and then picture it and I'm going to automatically have it. They forget the part that they truly have to put in the work, which is the sad part. A lot of the viewers right now and listeners are building and expanding their teams, whether it's in direct sales, in the corporate world, a team with their significant other and their children, or even in the sporting field. How can a leader right now accelerate their sales by visualizing?
Great. Well, I think that I always often say that our net worth is often a reflection of our self-worth. So I would visualize yourself in that place of joy, visualize yourself in a place of freedom, visualize yourself waking up every day excited to get to your desk so that you can get that work out into the world in whatever form your work comes. And continue to hold visions of yourself doing and being exactly what it is that you want to create. Today, I am an international speaker and a multiple New York Times bestselling author. And that was merely a vision 15 years ago. It was a vision that I held in my meditation. It was a vision that I wrote about in my journal. It was a vision that I talked about with my friends. It was a vision that was real to me, even when it wasn't my reality. And a lot of the visions that we hold for ourselves can be things that we can do, even if we don't get paid for them yet. So, for instance, I have a speaking career that has taken me all over the world. But when I first started speaking, I would speak for free wherever anybody was willing to give me a microphone. And I also put on my own talks for years where I would set up the stage and use a crappy mic. And I had some volunteers setting up chairs. And, I would rent out the Gay, Lesbian, Transgender Center across the street from my apartment on the 13th Street in the West Village. And I would rent it for $180 for the full 3 hours. I would set up the chairs. I charged $20 a person. 50 people became 100 people. 100 people became 200 people. 200 people with 300 people. And then it became my career. So, this was just me picking random people up off the street saying, hey, you're at the nail salon with me. Do you want to come to a self-help lecture? I'll see you Friday night, and filling that room with like-minded souls. And so it sounds a little cliche, but just do it. Do the thing that you've been dreaming of, even if it doesn't pay you, and it will build up momentum.
My first experience when I was 8 years old, a mentor told me when you look at the word SAW, and eventually when you flip the word around, it's WAS, so was. So I was there, whether it's a car, home, lifestyle, traveling, speaking, but you got to first, I saw myself doing it before I physically was there. And that's how I started to articulate things. But I know you talk about every one of us are super attractors, and I've got the book right here, and we'll talk a bit about it at the end of the interview because I'd love to share this with people and the listeners and viewers. For me, personally, the little bit of success I have, everything I've ever achieved has been attracted into my life. And I know it sounds like a cliche, but those who actually walk that path, they know it and they can speak from past history. But for those who haven't read the book and don't understand the message behind the title, what do you mean by super attractor?
I'm going to use you as an example. Okay. So you have a lot of fun doing what you do, clearly. You're doing a beautiful job. This is one of the more prepared, beautiful interviews I've had. I just want to reflect that back to you.
Thank you.
You love what you do. You believe in what you do. You said that you were brought up with a connection to the universe, right? So you have lived in a way where joy has been a priority, where self-worth has been pretty natural. And it's something that you may continue to develop, right? So when your highest priority is doing and living in a state of joy, then you become a super attractor. You are not doing this podcast just because you think it's a good idea or because it's going to get a lot of views and make you money or do whatever it's going to do to, level up your platform. You're doing it because you genuinely enjoy it. That's why I'm here. If I didn't feel that resonance of your joy, I would have been like, that guy doesn't feel right to me. I'm not going to get on that podcast. Okay. So that joy, that spark of joy within you that is consistently here, and that's why everyone's listening, is what makes you a super attractor, is what will continue to take your career and your business to the next level, is what will continue to attract what you desire into your life. Because when we live in a place of joy and we dwell in an energy that is a positive resonance, then we become a match for more of what we want. And so, and when we focus on what's thriving rather than what's not working, we become a match for more of what we want. When we reorganize our belief systems and make feeling good our priority, we become a super attractor, and we consistently are putting ourselves in a energetic state that is a match for more greatness. And I don't want that to sound like a bunch of woo-woo jargon. It's truth. It's the law. What we are is what we create, what we attract. So this book, Super Attractor, is methods for manifesting a life beyond your wildest dreams. It's beautiful, practical methods for reorganizing any limiting beliefs and ways that we may slow ourselves down, and the blocks that we put in the way, and reclaiming a belief system that we believe in, that feels good, that elevates us, and that brings forth our attracting power.
I mean, every single one of us, we attract each other into our lives for a purpose, a reason, and there's definitely a path that's already out there. On that note, with regards to the whole podcast, this is something which I personally tell all my team members from the media content side to step away, because I love spending 4, 5, 6 hours studying my guest, writing down the questions myself, and literally preparing that myself. But at the same time, you know, when what people need to understand is, yes, you've got the whole visualization, but now it's time to affirm it. Now it's time to speak it. Now it's time to live it. Now it's time to water your thoughts. In your book, you have a chapter titled Spiritually Aligned Action. In a short summary, I want you to walk the viewers and listeners through that.
Yeah, so to summarize this concept, it's about recognizing that when we have a desire that's backed with love and service, that we then have faith in that desire. We are in a state of what I refer to as spiritual alignment, right? So you had a desire to start this podcast. It was backed with a lot of love, joy, excitement, service to others, and you believed in it. Boom. Okay, perfect. So you took action, which was created this podcast from that place. And then the fourth step, so it's faith and love, and then belief. So it's love and service, belief in the desire. The third step is to take action from that energetic state, to take action from that place of spiritual alignment and nowhere else. Because when we take any action from a place of, let me force it or let me make it happen, everybody watching knows exactly how that does not work. It does not work. So taking action from a place of spiritual alignment sets up an energy that makes this desire move forward. And the fourth step is patience, because you may not have had as many views or likes or whatever in the first year or 6 months of your podcast, but you were patient and you stayed in spiritual alignment. And here we are today. So that's the 4 steps of the spiritually aligned action method. And I think it's probably one of the most important methods for any kind of entrepreneur. Because if you're trying to force anything into being, let me tell you something, it will not work. It will not work. It is an unattractive vibration, and it is not supported by the universe. It just will not work.
I know you're a huge believer in meditation. We talked about this. You and Deepak Chopra, you guys actually broke the internet. You broke and set a world record, recognized by the Guinness World Records, for hosting the largest online meditation. For those who don't know where to start, what is the simplest way of meditating today?
The simplest meditation I could give somebody is connecting to their breath. So if you place your right hand on your stomach and your left hand on your heart, and you breathe in deeply on the inhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and hold that breath out for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then exhale and relax your diaphragm. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then hold that. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you repeat that, in for 5, hold for 5, out for 5, hold for 5, with your diaphragm extending on the inhale and relaxing on the exhale, you will begin to regulate your nervous system. You will stimulate the vagus nerve, which gets you back into a centered state, which gets you back into a place where you're no longer in a reactive fight or flight condition. And it will help you get back into a place of 1 minute of that breath work can regulate you and can bring you back to a place of peace. And so if you start to practice that type of breath work regularly, you begin to recognize how you can adjust your energetic system in any moment.
A lot of people, when they hear the word meditation, they believe it's religious, whilst the fact is it's spiritualness. And that's why they turned off towards it. And we appreciate just that short description on how to do it. People could start right now, despite the religion, despite their background, their teachings, etc. I mean, everyone has their own definition and image of happiness right now. I know you're happier than ever before, but what is your definition of happiness?
Being present and joyful in the moment. Because if I'm present and joyful in the moment, then I'm happy because I'm not worried about what was or what's needed to come. It's something that I would talk about a lot and I believed in, but it wasn't something that I've known in my heart until now. Because traumatized people, I've been in recovery from trauma. Traumatized people don't know what presence is because you live in a place where you feel unsafe. So it's a tremendous amount of commitment to get back to safety. But now I'm back, and I may be back for the first time in most of my life, and I'm really enjoying it. I catch myself, sitting outside and like listening to the birds with my son while he's eating an ice cream. That's not something that I was capable of doing a year ago. A year ago, I couldn't have sat there. So I want to be really clear that's joy, that's happiness.
Every single listener, every single viewer, practice every single thing. But when it's your time to truly see those results, don't rush it, because in due time, it'll happen for the right reason. Gabby, stress is a health risk. In fact, it's one of the biggest killers in the world. And it doesn't have to be financial stress, what most people think it is, because it could be something as simple as traveling so frequently that our bodies are stressed due to the jet lag. How does one have a stress-free life, connect with the people, and have a spiritual life at the same time, where they're bridging the gap between everything combined?
I think it goes hand in hand. Having a spiritual life helps you regulate the stress in your life. We're not immune to stressors, but we do begin to become less stressed the more we develop our spiritual condition. I remember I've done some beautiful work with Deepak and have had nice opportunities to be on flights with him and hear him speak about his own spiritual practice. And this is a man who's up at 4:00 in the morning meditating. And as a result, he's not stressed out. He's just very in the moment, very present. And this is also a person who's on the plane, typically not right now, but on the plane, 300 days out of the year. So I always used him as a power of example of what I wanted to be like and how I wanted to feel. And so that devotion to his practice is something that I have committed to in my own life, where I have a very devotional spiritual practice. And currently I do a 40-minute meditation from 12 p.m. to 12:40 p.m. And that's why we started today at 1, because I won't miss it. I can't skip it. And the reason I do it at 12 o'clock is because it's typically when I have a little downtime with I have my team all have agreed that that's our time to meditate, so that we don't have calls at that time and we don't bug each other. And my son is napping, so whether I have childcare or not, he's definitely down. And I have space to go somewhere else. That isn't my only meditation of the day, but it's the one that I will never skip. And it is helps my sleep, it helps my happiness, it helps my physical body, my digestion, my immune system, my psychic abilities, my creative abilities, everything. And it has given me this level of presence and serenity. And so I can't stress it enough. There you go. There's your word, stress.
Yeah.
I can't stress enough how important your spiritual practice is to regulating your stress.
So judgment is an addiction, and therefore people use judgment to focus on obsession. People are running away from what is actually there because they don't know. I mean, they don't really want to face it. They want to go through a different route, and your problems are made for you, no matter what. Whether you change your occupation, change your lane, change your country, change your occupation, whatever it is, your problems were made for you. So you got to be able to go through it. But it's a very common human trait. How do people heal themselves from judgment?
Well, in my book, Judgment Detox, the first method is to witness your judgment without judgment. So to look at the ways that you have been judging others and recognize, or yourself, and just recognize it and witness it and see it. And in that space of witnessing your judgment, you may be tempted to judge yourself more, but that perpetuates the cycle. So that first step is to witness your judgment without judgment. The second step is to honor the wounds, to honor the core wounds that live beneath the judgment. Because anytime we're judging, we're projecting out what we do not want to feel. So respecting and honoring the wounds that live within you. Then it goes on for 4 more steps, which I could spend another hour teaching. But the method is about really healing your own condition. Then I think this is obviously a theme we're going to keep coming back to, so that you're no longer projecting what you don't want to feel, because you are now safe with whatever it is that you're feeling. You honor it, you respect it, you have tools for undoing it, so that you don't need to use others as a way of anesthetizing those feelings.
During this time of a changing world, and I say changing because of the pandemic, the crisis, and now even more, you guys are in the United States are going through the racism. In 1994, in fact, when I was born, the year of freedom because of Nelson Mandela, we went through that 26 years ago. But everyone seems so anxious, running around aimlessly. How should someone simply, or a listener, a viewer right now, simply remain calm and try to still the mind?
I don't think that you can get through this time without some form of personal growth practice. For some people, it might be running. For some people, it's meditating. For some people, it's therapy. For some people, it's journaling. For some people, it's deep dive into your spiritual condition. Whatever it is mandatory and required, I believe, at this time, in order for us to not fall apart. The resonance of the planet is so shaky that we have to have our own developmental tools for grounding in order to not shake with the times. So I have devoted my life to that groundedness so that I can teach others. I couldn't be in a place of offering guidance if I wasn't able to understand what it meant to be there. And I also recognize that everything that's happened in my life, the difficult things that I've talked about today, have all happened so that I could be here right now in this exact grounded state. Okay, so I'm thankful for everything. What I would want to offer to anyone is, whether it's through me, through you, through other spiritual teachers, that you find the people you resonate with, or the teacher that you resonate with. And if you want what they have, they say this in the 12 steps, if you want what they have, do what they do. Because it's not something we can overlook anymore. We can't just say, oh, I'll get to that meditation one day in Bali. Like, we got to get there now. And it is the only way we will survive this experience. Because yes, you may get out of it, but you'll have PTSD. So you need to get through it with consistent grounding in order to continuously regulate so that you don't become the victim of these times.
I mean, in order for the world to change, we as individuals need to change ourselves. And it's as simple and as small of a change as when I change and you change, we change our cities. The cities change the states changes the countries changes continents, continents change the world. We can't just stand up and come together and change the world if we can't sort ourselves out. So with relationships, I mean, I know it's so important, it's so vital. and we need it to function properly in the world because we feed off each other in so many ways. Energy, when you look at frequency or even attraction, how can people right now improve bonds and share visions to bring people together?
Well, number one, we can be kinder. There is so much judgment and shaming online right now. The racial stuff has brought a lot of it up, and it is what it is. You know, some people need to get out what they feel, and some people need to express their truth, and I think that's all necessary. But when we are in the pursuit of a greater unity that has been so longed for, what we must begin to do is recognize it within ourselves first. So if we feel challenged or disrespected, we have to ask ourselves, what is it within me that is activating that? And what is it within me that wants to fight back? If we feel separate and alone and we want to project it out, we have to ask ourselves, what is it within me that needs to be healed? And so I think that right now, really practicing a greater level of self-compassion and compassion for others is required, because we can't get to a more loving place, loving planet, unless it's happening on an individual level. Now, people are mad, people are outraged, and that rage is necessary. It's creating a lot of police reform in my country. That rage is at work and it's doing its thing. But I believe that you can channel rage with love. Martin Luther King, Gandhi, Lema Gadawi, I'm not saying her name right, but there's a lot of people that have shown us, teachers who have shown us the true change that can occur when rage is channeled with an energy of love.
And I want people to see it coming from the top going down, because you and I, both authors, both speakers, both have our own separate followings, podcasts, yet I don't really care if people buy your book versus buying mine. I don't really care if people buy your course versus buying mine, because when you have such abundant vision, eventually the people start to get attracted into your life from various different sources. But if you have such a scarcity mentality of, okay, this group is just mine, it's about us from the top going down, not just speaking it on a platform like this, sharing with people, hey, you at anywhere, any shape, form, or fashion, you too need to be able to collaborate with someone, share the love with someone.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
So in closing up with the last few questions, what is the impact you want to have in the world?
I want people to have the tools. I want to teach tools for people to feel safe. I want to help people feel safe.
People are chasing something to feel good about themselves, and most people don't achieve what they want because of their belief system. So can you explain why this transpires in our life? And I mean belief system. A typical example is you have a son. He's about to turn at the peak age of 5 to 8, where that's his foundation of getting to where you are and surpassing that. And unfortunately, we can't turn back the time, but we can make a difference in our children and in our future. But how can they make that shift today?
I think that, like I said earlier, teaching our children resilience, teaching people, any human being can change their life when they start to honor the way they feel, when they start to really respect and honor their feelings. Because sometimes if we weren't given that respect as a child, we have to reparent ourselves by giving it to ourselves. And then that also creates a dynamic where we start to recognize our ability to hold that space for our children. So being able to regulate and honor our feelings in the moment and fully express our feelings healthfully will create a lot of resilience for human beings, and particularly for the next generation.
You mentioned we need to tune ourselves to slow ourselves down, but still achieve more. How can we do that without the hustle?
Well, the only way to achieve more is to stop hustling. The hustle, and there's a whole chapter about this in Super Attractor, do less and attract more. The hustle is what gets in the way. The hustle is not resonant with the universe. The hustle is a push. It's a controlling mechanism. So if you've been priding yourself in your hustle, yeah, that's okay. It's only going to get you so far.
Yeah.
Do less and attract more.
And that's level one. Level one is just, and I love people like Gary Vee, incredible content, but it's all about work. And that's great. And now I love seeing Gary transition from level one to level two, which is the psychology of his people. Because if you don't have that mental stamina, if you don't have that spiritual being, there's no way you're going to maintain that hustle. Gabby, where could people get your book? I know there's so many, there's over 6-7 books of yours. I want to start off with the Super Attractor. Where could people get this? How could people communicate with you and just basically follow you on social media?
Well, everything is at gabbybernstein.com. I'm at Gabby Bernstein on social. Obviously, you can get all of my books on Amazon. If you are able to support your local bookstores, you can call them and see if you can pick it up outside. So whatever it is that you feel called to, often people say to me, well, where should I start? Which book should I start with? I would say you can often read the introductions to the books and decide which one feels the most resonant for you, or Super Attractor is an excellent place to start right now, because we all are looking to have that energetic shift in ourselves so that we can start to see things differently in our world. So, yeah.
In closing up, I've trademarked this question for every one of my guests. What does self-talk sound like with Gabby Bernstein?
Oh, that's a good question to ask me. Self-talk is really compassionate. Oh, hey, Gabby, there you go again. Okay, we can try that differently next time. I forgive you. I forgive you. I forgive you. I love you. All is well.
Amazing. Gabby, thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate you. Thank you for the wisdom, the knowledge, the experience from past, the pain you went through, turning that into your passion, the mess you went through, turning that into a message, and the frustration you went through, turning that into your freedom. And I appreciate your time. I appreciate everything you brought to the show. And once again, thank you so much.
Thank you, sweetheart.